Okay. Excellent. I'm going to hand over to my colleagues Carmen and Eric now, who are going to take you through the session.
So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this session on maintenance and continuous airworthiness. My name is Carmen Bonillo Martinez. I'm an airworthiness expert in the airworthiness standards and implementation section in the Flight Standard Directorate at EASA. And I'm here with my colleague Eric. You can say a few words.
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Erik Roosen. I'm also an airworthiness expert working in the same section as Carmen, and pleased to be here.
And we are very pleased to have today with us three very special guests that have agreed to participate in this session and to explain us their experiences and share it with all the community. First of all, we have Mr. Andreas Nystad. So, Andreas, could you please say a few words about you?
Yes, as said here, my name is Andreas Nystad. I am director for the maintenance organization in Norwegian, also nominated person for the 145 organization. So before I have around over 25 years in the maintenance organizations, been an aircraft licensed engineer, and also have a degree in as a bachelor degree in management. And now I'm in Norwegian. Thank you.
Thank you, Andreas. Then we have with us Captain Peter de Schepper. Please, Peter, say a few words.
Good afternoon. So my name is Peter de Schepper. As you mentioned already, I'm maybe the strange duck here in the bunch of people. I'm a pilot flying on the 320. Almost 30 years in the business now, and about 15 years doing safety. So I'm the safety manager of Brussels Airlines and responsible for the safety of all operational departments. That includes CAW, 145, flight ops, cabin and ground ops. I'm doing about 15 years of safety now, and yeah, most of my projects have been introduction of SMS into the different domains, which we are now fully SMS approved in every single domain of our operations.
Thank you, Peter. And last, now my pronunciation will be perfect, Mr. Saul Martin Alvarez. Please, Saul, say a few words.
Hi, Mr. Saul is a bit too much polite for me, but I'm the line maintenance director for Iberia maintenance. I have over 20 year experience in the maintenance in different positions, line, heavy maintenance, supply chain, different roles. Happy to be here with you to share our preparation for the summer. And let's start.
Okay, thank you, Saul. So I will explain a little bit the audience how we are running this 1 hour and a half session. We will start with a short presentation, few slides from each of the companies of our guests this afternoon. Then we will have a moderated discussion about the topic today. The topic of the week is the Summer Safety Week. And then we will have a question and answer from Slido and answered by our guests. In the meantime, we are also running Slido polls. So I think, Eric, we have already started with one of the Slido polls.
Yes, correct. We started one poll just to get some interaction with the audience to see what they are experiencing in the preparation of the summer season. So please feel free to react. I can see some people are already putting in some words on staffing and other things. So feel free to vote on such subjects or add some things. Once this poll is stopped, we will maybe come with some other questions later on. And in the meantime, you can ask some questions through the Q&A tab. Slido.
And the last few minutes will be a little bit of wrap-up and summary of what we have discussed along the afternoon. So just to save time, we can start with the Norwegian presentation, please, Andrea.
Yes. Then Let's see if we get the technique here to work.
Yeah,
Yes. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes. As I said, I'm the maintenance director for the Norwegian, and my responsibility is in the Part 145 organization. And this picture is from our hangar in Oslo. I would talk a little bit in the first slide here about Norwegian. We have had a grow in our fleet after the COVID and reconstruction of the company. Back in 2021, we had around 50 aircrafts. Then we got up to 70 aircrafts during 22. The main fleet we have is 737 NGs, but the increase in the fleet now into the summer program, it's only we taking in the new Maxes. We are getting Maxes from Boeing, and we are also taking in 6 Maxes from ALC, the leasing company, that we are getting in the last ones now before the end of June month here. And this is important for us to get the fleet in the right size, so we can meet the production we have set as a goal for the summer 2023. Norwegian, we are operating only Boeing 737-800s and Maxes, and we are flying around 400 and an average 450 flights every day. And the Nordic market is our main market, but we fly a lot north-south in the Mediterranean. So now during the summer program, we are transporting the Nordic people down to the Mediterranean after a cold winter. So we have a we're gonna fly a lot during this summer. And the reason why we are going over to the Maxes is, of course, reducing the fuel burn and the noise with better engines. And from 2025, we have ordered 50 new Maxes, plus we have an option of 30 also that we can take from 2028. Norwegian, we are in a good financial situation now after the reconstructions, and we are looking forward to getting in the new aircrafts. A little bit about the technical organization. We have organized the technical organization as one technical organization, where we have the CAW and the Part 145 organization under the same management. And today, the CAW organization, we are operating with 3 AOCs, and there are 2 Norwegian and 1 Swedish. The reason why we have 2 AOCs in Norway here is due to slots and ownership about that. So there are some history here. The organization of the CAW is a standard organization where engineering, planning, aircraft transition and power plant, and we have the ARC renewal team that we have set up. And the Part 145 organization, we have a production unit that have location in Oslo, Arlanda, and Copenhagen, including Stavanger, Trondheim, and Bergen. Stavanger, Bergen, and Trondheim have no hangar, so it's a more light line maintenance operation we run there. And in Oslo and Arlanda and Copenhagen, we also have a hangar, and including we can do base maintenance work also there. We don't do any large C-checks or things like that, but we have the opportunity to take jobs during the winter time. So today the organization, the technical organization we have is around 350 full-time employed, and we take in around 40 to 50 contractors during the summertime. So and into the main topic here today for me is talk about during the summer program, the number of flights goes up. For Norwegian, we increase it around 30% compared to the winter. The ground time also reduces, and we have the normal vacation in Scandinavia, where in June to August we have a large group of vacation taken out, and we have to fill this gap with extra staff. So we mainly take in CRS staff on contract, hire in. And there are challenges in this area, and that's of course availability. This summer we have seen that there have been challenges getting enough staff in. Some base maintenance MROs also run through the summer. That is not normally the norm. It is normally they are stopping the base maintenance during the summer, but this year we see a different behavior. Then the next challenge we see is access into airports. When you shall have in 40 to 50 contractors, then you have to get them in place here. You have to have the police attest and all this to get them into the airport. This is also a big challenge for us. Regarding stability, there are a rule in the EASA regulation where you have the 50% rule of own staff and trained staff. This is a thing you have to take into consideration. And we are training to get slot for training in procedures, tech log, and all the training program you have to go through. You have to have a capacity on that side. And there are culture challenges that you also have to take into consideration. We see also the knowledge can vary. Yes, you have a B1 license, but it's not necessary. If you have all your competence from base maintenance, you are lacking experience in line maintenance, things like that. And time is this period here with all this activity going in parallel. When you are increasing your flights, you're taking in people, and it's a challenge to get this to set all this in place. And to secure that, we have in Norwegian here set up a system. Of course, we do safety risk assessment and put in all the risk we see and use that as a part of the setup we have. The capacity planning is a very important area where we have different locations, the flight activities, and we have to take in that organization, where to place all the contractors we take in. we have the assessment. This area is an area where we use a company that are a partner with us to do the first assessment. Then we in the maintenance organization here in Norwegian do a second desktop assessment, going through the CV, documentation, and all the things we get on the person that we want to have in. Then we take the contractor in for doing practice, work a little bit in a team, 2-3 days or a week. Then we take an interview with person directly, and if we are not pleased, then we send them home again. So we run and if you pass all the 3 assessments, then you can then we apply for authorization for the person, and then they have to go through all the training program and all this. In Scandinavia, we have a strong union, so we also need to have a good dialogue with the unions when we're taking in contractors, and inform about how many we are taking in, and secure that all parties are informed about this. And there are laws and regulations around this area that we have to follow. The other tools we use a lot is, of course, safety nets report. The reports that we have had from previous years. We are a company now over 20 years old, and we have a lot of experience. We use this data also to improve the next year, or to improve our performance in how to take in contractors. Management is another area where we see it's very important. It's how to when you take in contractors, especially considering culture, the knowledge, how you are setting the teams up, and how they are working on the different locations. So you secure that the culture and the is working good. Then putting them together with permanent employees, and securing that you get it according to the Norwegian way. We also have a onboarding program, so we secure that we have follow the checklist and everything, so they feel part of the company and our values, and that's very important for us also. So when we have done all that, we successfully have a good team combined with the full-time employee and the contractors, and we can secure a safe flight with our flights. So
thank you very much. Thank you very much, Andreas. Very, very good presentation. A lot of issues that you raised. Can we continue with the presentation from Peter?
Yes, Carmen coming up. Do you see my presentation?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so a very good afternoon, everybody. So my name, as already said in the introduction, is Peter de Schepper. I'm the safety manager of Brussels Airlines. As you can see on the next slide, it does not want to move. Okay, good. So at Brussels Airlines, we're one of the 4 Lufthansa Group hub airlines and also member of the Star Alliance. We, of course, come out of the ashes of Sabena, which was actually yesterday 100 years old. The national airline of Belgium, and being the Africa specialist within the Lufthansa Group, serving at the moment 17 sub-Saharan destinations, which is very specific also for our maintenance department, being an Africa specialist. One of the very specifics or specials we have, we already, as I said in my introduction, have the CAMO and the 145 maintenance management under one umbrella for the last 8 years. And this has allowed us to come up with a common safety risk management system. You see there a small dial. And what we have done in the past, in the last years, also up to the approval of the 145 in the SMS, is we have made risk very visible. So all risks in the different domains have the same risk dials and they all have the same logic behind it. The idea is to show upper management immediately signs. They also see these dials if there are issues rising. If not, if we're in the red, for example, immediate action should be taken because there is an urgent issue that needs to be tackled. So that's maybe specific. It's a risk management that we have developed throughout the Lufthansa Group, but in our airline, it is running in all the different operational domains. At Brussels, we do about 160 flights a day to about 85 destinations, some North Atlantic, but the main focus is on the African destinations. Currently flying a fleet of an all Airbus fleet of 320s, 330s. For the moment, all CEOs on the 320s, and shortly we'll start the deliveries of the NEOs, accepting the first one in the month of August. So that's the fleet where we operate out of Brussels with, and we are currently also wet leasing additional 2 CRJs 900 for the summer season. Specifically for the maintenance staff, there are about 400 people on a total of 3,200 people at Brussels Airlines. So we have a fully owned maintenance activity, just as Brussels as a base compared to my other colleagues who have multiple bases. So we have one single base here in Brussels with a part CAMO and a part 145, which is fully approved, SMS approved. Now, what I wanted to go through a little bit is how do we prepare for the summer, or what have we done in order to come up with some buffers? Is basically, as I discussed, we basically risk map everything, being it the flight ops risk and maintenance risk, in the same manner. This risk mapping is basically done, and the output is kind of a dial, a risk dial, where there is a model behind that gives us an indication what is the risk consumption we are currently having and what are the issues we're facing. So in order to prepare for this summer, since we're doing already this for a few years as well, we actually looked in the past years what was the main issue with the summer surge. The summer surge is not new. I think for many airlines, or the seasonality is becoming more and more a factor than before. So we could actually look into the data, and this is what we have done. We analyzed all the data that we have through the reporting in our maintenance organization. And this is basically what we're doing. We classify it in multiple legislation components. So like the 145, Alpha 42 components, or the performance of maintenance, etc. Actually, when classifying all reports within the SMS system, within maintenance, we have trained people for that. They can then do root cause analysis. And basically, we try to focus on the things we have control over, and we will then try or see, or we can then identify the clusters where should we work on. And in this example, we just take 2 clusters, which is the performance of maintenance and the certification of maintenance, being 2 issues in our reporting system, which we can then actually confirm. So it's a fully automated system that we have, and it gives us kind of a root cause analysis. Yeah? So you basically see with all the reports we had, this is the last year, this was 2022. So you see there immediately what is driving the maintenance issues. Organizational factors, it was already mentioned by my colleague, lack of manpower, knowledge and skills. So also there we saw, how do you put new people in there? I think Andreas also mentioned it. How can we put training in there? But also here we measure the effectiveness of the training. So also for this summer season, we adapted some trainings. A lot of trainings are given through CBTs, briefings, etc. And we saw there were some weaknesses in the system, which comes out as well through the analysis. So we decided to change some trainings into dedicated classroom trainings in order to create more robustness. If we then go focus, or we now just focus on the organizational factors, for example, we can then actually drill down further. These are all live dashboards that we have. They are available for all accountable people as well to the accountable manager. So he can actually follow safety live. All the data which is put in there is actually live data. And then we can actually basically make a small analysis and have a look what is driving the multiple root causes in organizational knowledge and skills, etc., individual factors. And what we see there, it's one of them, as just as an example, that time pressure was a main driver for maintenance which was not correctly done. And that's something we see coming back on multiple events. And we categorize about 50 to 60 maintenance safety reports per month. So the whole analysis is based on more or less between 700 and 800 reports out of maintenance. So basically, this is the focus. This is a little bit where I wanted to go to. In order to take good decisions, I think you have to show or to make safety very visual and show what is driving the organization and what are the issues. So with these dashboards, we were able to convince upper management and especially planning, because in summer, I guess planning wants to fly as much as possible, while maintenance wants to do as much as maintenance possible. So on the analysis we did with the dashboards we had, we actually, it's one of the factors we focused on. It's the increase of operational stability. And what we did over there in order to allow proper maintenance is multiple factors we identify in order to relieve time pressure. Yeah, so we want our aircraft to be in a top condition, and for that, maintenance also needs certain slots. So on the basis of the dashboards and on all the reports, we basically looked at spreading the connection waves out of Brussels, having a dedicated night work window, sufficient maintenance windows. With that I mean that the aircraft, for example, they rotate, but they are continuously available 2 nights a week. Every aircraft is available for a longer slot into Brussels in order to allow to perform certain maintenance. Especially for the long haul, then specifically to allow the long haul to be long enough at this base in Brussels. What is specifically in the long haul is that we fly into the African network. Many of the destinations do not have maintenance. So we have maintenance, actually a maintenance engineer on board, which is flying along with the aircraft to do some basic maintenance if required in our outstations in Africa. But that also means if they come back to Brussels, there is more extensive maintenance required. And then last, the proportion of aircrafts in night stop. Also there, we looked with network planning to make sure that it's not continuously the same aircraft which are out of Brussels. So also there, we made a whole plan to divide that, to make sure that the aircrafts from time to time are back in Brussels, and that for sure there is an extended working period twice a week for every single aircraft out of Brussels. So this is a little bit in a nutshell how we actually, out of our SMS system, look to the data, all the data that the engineers are did. And like I said, it's based on the 700 reports. And without or with the visualization of the dashboards we did, we were able to convince planning in order to create additional buffers. That's one of the measures we took to have the ground time as well. What Andreas mentioned, of course, we have some extra staff during the summer period in order to allow also the work to be done. So this is in a nutshell at Brussels, how we have prepared for the summer It's one of the topics. The other one, specialized, but I think we'll discuss a little bit later, is also we have changed some training, as I mentioned before, in order to create robustness and in order to also allow people to come up with dedicated decisions, which might be important in order to continue the operation.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you very much. So now, Iberia, Saul, can you?
Yep.
And the last presentation for this afternoon.
Maybe before we go to Raul, to remind the participants of this session, please feel free to react in a poll on the poll that we're currently running. It's about what you see as the biggest challenge during the summer season. We see that about 50 participants give some words, and what we want to do is, once Saul has completed his presentation, we will share the outcome of this poll. So please take your time to respond or not. Thanks. So.
Okay, yeah. So good afternoon, everyone. So let me first introduce a bit what is Iberia line maintenance. So we are taking care mainly the fleet from Iberia, Iberia Express, and Level. We are talking about 44 narrow bodies from Iberia, 23 from Iberia Express, and about 40 wide bodies in Madrid and 4 additional wide bodies based in Barcelona. So this is our main activity, really linked to our own CAW. But additionally, we are having up to 63 different clients in these 28 different locations across mainly Americas and Spain. And we are supporting well definitely also in Spain and additional IAG clients and third parties as well. It's important for us. We have done 2 different 145s in the same Iberia maintenance organization. The reason why is because recently, last year, we have splitted the line maintenance organization 145 and move it into the airline from our traditional concept from the MRO and the business area. So the reason why it was mainly to put the focus on the operation and also to allow the airline to have additional flexibility for their own operations. Okay, so our main, well, additionally to that, we are about 800 people around to do the full maintenance scope. From daily transit up to C-check not included, okay? So the hard times or A-checks or all the base maintenance that we have mainly in Madrid, Barcelona, or another big station in Mexico or Guarulhos. So we have faced in this concept of change management, I think a very rapid change in the last 2 years. So as you well know, Iberia has started the recovery from the pandemic really fast. This is really good for us as a company, but this brings a lot of challenge as well for maintenance. So we have transformed from an area where we have plenty aircrafts in storage or preservation. And then we have suffered last year many problems on reliability on the fleet, especially in the narrow bodies, where we have seen that the number of defects has grown. Additionally, the TDR went down. So we need to put already last year a special plan in order to recover. And we always do when we finish the summer campaign, also an additional lesson learned to start preparing the next summer readiness. So here you can see what are the main targets that we have for this 23. For sure, it was to increase TDR and on-time delivery, mainly in narrow body fleets. The wide body fleets were behaving pretty well. We do have a problem in supply chain. I think this is a general problem. We can see lately a bit of improvement in the supply chain market, but still, in my view, not enough and not consistent across all the OEMs and providers. As commented, we need to control back the defects and to have the reliability. And also we face one of the points that I will tackle in the action a bit later is all the training and certification, because our people, our staff, it's quite old. We are a traditional company here, 95, 96 years old already. And our people is continually renewing, and we have some kind of training. I will explain a bit later. No? So we need to growth in the certification. We need to renew our staff skills. Okay, we have launched as well the transformation plan on the AMOS reinforcement. So we have included many different new processes, and we are embracing right now all the digital. So we are converting all the paperwork into digital, and we are adopting fully AMOS mobile with full visibility with all the pools from the material side. No? So those were the targets. So what we have prepared for this summer. No? So first is to put in context, this summer is going to fly even more than in 2019 already, and we are even growing in some destination. So we need to confront already the situation that we have, difficult situation in Europe with the strikes, with not enough people, mainly from the handling services, or some problems in different airports. And also restricted airspace with a general growth expected for more than 20%. No? So it's going to be tough. We know that it's going to be a very tough summer. So we have prepared different actions here to cover that part. No? So we will explain in the question a bit more later, but we have prepared a clear increase in the manpower. As we were commented here, our approach is the school approach. So we have a trainee program. We have up to 3 agreements with different schools. So we are putting additional people on board on our production. And we are also doing a very aggressive plan on the training courses. We are doubling the hours in training from previous year in order to do additionals, to perform additional certifiers ready for the operation. Also the combination from different certification using the A certification plus B2 is another flexibility that we are working. As well, in order to cover the peaks from the AOGs, we do have already some flexibility measures agreed with our different unions. It's not only one, as my colleague Andreas, I have different ones here. So we need to negotiate with all of them to have these additional measurements in place, but I think we will have additional support from flexibility from the people as well. From the planning and control was also important. We have some problems in our fleet, especially in the 330 fleet, with some GE problems for the engine bushings. So we have forward the campaign a couple of months in order to be ready. We have finished already the campaign to be ready for the summer and completely clean. And then next inspection will happen in October. This is not only for this particular campaign. So we normally perform a review on our planning in order to forward as much as possible and put additional peak in May and April to pass the summer with less planned maintenance, let's say away. Also, we have faced the radio altimeter modification that was required by the US government to fly there. We are also ready with only one aircraft left that is going to be ready next week. And the new system, we are putting additional big data to serve and control all the different defects and to improve the reliability for the mail items. And as commented, for me, the big threat is the supply chain status that we have in our business, with different providers really performing or suppliers really performing really bad, as maybe Honeywell or even GE, Collins, in a very bad situation from the parts perspective. Also not helping from Boeing, either Airbus. So we do have a plan with different providers, with on-site stocks and pool provider, but we have invest additional money in order to have all the critical parts on house. And also we have doubled our consumables provision for 3 months ready for this summer. That's the main point. Additionally, you can see that we are also putting a new fleet for Iberia, not new for Welling. That is the NEOS with Pratt & Whitney 1100. As you are well aware of the situation and reliability of this engine is pretty bad. So we have also put a special focus from the parts specific for this engine that will start operating in July for us. Okay, and as commented, all the process developing in AMOS and new processes to help our people to simplify and have better control on the processes. So I think that's all, because we are running out of time, and we will answer additional questions later on.
Thank you, Saul. So I think we can go quickly through the Slido poll result. Eric or John, can you display that?
Yeah, it was interesting to see that people were reacting to the poll, and what I've seen coming across were some things already mentioned about staffing, about part shortages. Can you, these are the questions raised? I remember.
Yeah, the poll.
The outcome of the poll. Oh, I just stopped the poll. Do I need to activate it again?
Yeah, maybe go back to the other poll.
Do I need to start it?
Yeah, you need to. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
There we go. Quick. Ah, there we are. Can you see? Yeah, so we can see that there were quite some responses to lack of manpower, shortage of staff, having qualified staff, but also shortage of availability of spare parts, and the parts availability was mentioned sometimes. Interesting also to read some comments like mindset and the commercial pressure. I think that's yeah, sounds familiar.
So I think we will discuss a little bit more about those issues now with the moderated session. I think we will come back to some of the issues you just presented, but to emphasize again some of the topics that we think are the most relevant. So I will start with questions to our panelists, Saul and Peter. Yes, we are talking about being ready, being resilient and responsive for the summer campaign. How did your organization consider the most likely scenarios, including the worst cases? If you can explain what have you been done at your level?
Well, as we were explaining before, I think this year is going to be especially tough, especially in Europe. We have taken the learnings from last year as well, where also the fleet health was not perfect. So in this case, we have taken the worst scenario that we could have in order to be prepared for. That's the reason that we have put the extra effort in the manpower, or the extra effort or extra investment for the spare parts. As we think, well, it can be worse always, but I think that the scenario that we have taken is already really conservative, and we are putting in the bad position, let's say away in that way.
Peter?
Yeah, just to add on what Saul said, is that basically we focused on 3 parts to be ready for the summer. It is kind of a worst case calculation. So what can we expect? And with this, we basically looked a little bit what has been going on in the last months, because for us, not only maintenance or spare parts is a main issue, but also the amount of strikes that we see throughout Europe. And we have always aircraft transiting, being it through France, Germany, etc. So they might be stuck somewhere else. So basically, we added additional buffers to make sure that even with the additional ATC delays, etc., that there is enough ground time in Brussels in order to have at least the capacity to do the maintenance, because that's something we have seen in the past. The aircraft are flying, some buffers are foreseen, but then they're eaten up by ATC or other external factors other than our own maintenance. So basically, we focused on this as well as sickness to come to a realistic, like Sol said, you can. What is the worst? I think at the worst we are not flying anymore, basically. So to come to kind of a realistic scenario, but with enough buffers in there in order to cope also with external factors like air traffic delays that would prevent proper maintenance.
Thank you for those answers. Now, Andreas, can you summarize, just enumerate, because I think your presentation have a lot of information about it already. Can you enumerate the challenges for Norwegian for this summer?
And there I found the mute button. Yes, as I mentioned, if I look at for the maintenance side, competent staffing is of course a challenge during the summer, as I went through in my presentation. And to secure that, you need to have a capacity on the training side, and to secure that you get them on the right knowledge level before you set them into active service. And but the main challenge we see from a maintenance side have been getting enough contractors. We see that we have to send many of them home. We don't see them to be on a high enough level that we expect. There can be challenges with the language, the lacking of experience on line maintenance side. It's also an area where we see they don't pass the requirement on the airport to get access to the airport. It's another topic where we see challenges to getting in staff. As Peter and Sol mentioned, overall for Norwegian, we see the strikes in ATC and the challenges in Europe. Yeah, that's our concern on the airline side. But for me, on the maintenance side, I see staffing as a challenge. But
Okay.
I got the status from my team now, and they're looking good per now. So we will handle it.
So I think we will talk again about the staffing a bit later. So for the time being, I will come back to Brussels Airlines and Iberia to give an example, a practical example of how your organization prepared to be resilient for the summer campaign.
Well, I think we had a very good example indeed in Iberia on the 24th of January. In that day, we lost all the connection to our systems. It was a crazy day, to be honest. And in that time, where is all the contingency plan really shows and proves efficiency and the help, no? Because then you only do the tests, you do some simulations and everything. But then when you confronted that and you have everything prepared, you have your committee, your emergency committee, you have prepared the volunteers, then we end the day, and I'm really proud to be honest on that from the company, because at the end, at the half of the day, we need to stop the volunteers to come from their homes on their leaves. Because they were already too much, and we cover completely the day with only 13 cancellations, which I think was great. And that was thanks to have all the contingency plans, all the previous procedure already set and trained. And I think that's the important and the key things that you need to have.
Thank you, Saul. Peter?
Yes, as already said during the presentation, our focus was a little bit onto training. So in order to increase the resilience, what we basically did is look at the effectiveness of the trainings, also looked at all the incidents we had in the last years, and we basically focused on the increase of training on some staff which are up front, like MCC engineers, the supervisors, etc. They were all trained in a little bit more into crisis management, how to handle or to deal. And we have teach them actually different models, how to deal with crisis situation, because it's like we mentioned here already, sometimes it's ATC, sometimes it's something else. So it's something which is very difficult to train. That's why we opted for a more general approach to make them more aware about crisis management, what their decisions have as an impact, and also if they take decisions that they look on what's beyond the decision they take. So not just to look how do I get the aircraft airworthiness again, but what is my decision, what is the impact of my decision a little bit further. So that has been the main focus on the training, or what we have done in order to do the resilience of our staff.
Okay, so now we want to dig a little bit more about the staff and what are your strategies to cope with the additional work in the maintenance during the summer camp period, and what is your strategy? How do you deal with this lack of staff or potential problem with the staff? So we can go probably Andreas first.
Yes, regarding additional staffing, and what we have done also is together with the unions here in Scandinavia, and is also to go in agreement how to move vacation out of that vacation period in the summer. It's a action we have done, so we can secure that we have more permanent employees on duty during summer to secure contingency. And the other thing is together with the maintenance planning on the operator side, on the CAMO, is how to remove out, concentrate during the summer mainly line maintenance jobs. So all type of base maintenance activities we try to move into the winter, where we have more availability of aircraft and manpower to handle that. So, but since we have the flight program we have, where we fly a lot during the summer and less in the winter, we have that opportunity. So that's action we do to handle this.
Thank you, Andreas. So now, Peter.
Yes, I can be quite short on that particular question. So what we have done is on the line maintenance, we have increased, we have insourced contractors for about 10% additional workforce in order to cope with the summer schedule.
Okay, thank you. And Saul?
Yeah, we have another policy. We have almost 0 contractors for the core, for the line maintenance scope. Only few for cabin interiors replacement, textiles. So we have created here the culture of a school, as we were explaining before. So we are having trainees coming here since very young to be trained. Then we started training with them. And then we tackle the needs for the certifying staff. And then we normally renew and add this training for the certifying staff. So, for example, last year, we already include 60 people more in line maintenance. And from the previous year, we are doing additional certifying staff last year 24, this year 27. So we are continuously having this kind of training, because we are not normally looking in the market for external certifiers, but we are creating on our own. What we are doing right now, in order to also put a bit more emphasis in this certifying staff, is to cover the B2s with a certifier, in order to have a bit more flexibility for the general tasks, the daily, the wheel replacement, and these kind of things, and also to add this B1 plus B2. But this is most costly, and normally it takes much more time to have it.
Thank you, Saul. So I think we can go to the poll.
Yeah, the participants might have noticed that we were running a short poll on the need of additional staff during the summer season, and we can see that there's some response to that. Some of them say that they have contracted some temporary staff, or that they needed to postpone or cancel maybe some maintenance activities to align with the availability of their staff. So it's been in line with what you hear here. There was no response though on the staffing levels were okay, but additional training was needed. I do hear that from the panelists, that you have put some emphasis on that, on some training needs. That's okay. So yeah, thanks for the poll.
So thank you very much to all the contributors to the poll. I think we can continue with another question. Is how does your organization ensure that the staff, mechanics, certifying staff, is aware of the roles and responsibilities in the line maintenance? And as Andreas and Saul are the ones running the Part 145, I will start with Andreas' answer.
Yes, training is the key here. Regarding when we take in if contractors, we give them the same training in procedures, in the 145 procedures, and in the CAW procedures that we do for the permanent employees. So we run them through the same program, and this is to secure that we have the same competence level. And this also secure that they working together with other permanent employed technicians, so we can transfer knowledge on how we do it in Norwegian, so we secure the Norwegian way. And roles and responsibility. I was talking about in my presentation about the assessment, where we are interviewing the candidates and going through and secure that they understand their responsibility, that they can maneuver in the manuals, they can use the AMOS system, they can and this before we are giving them authorization to sign for own work and give CRS.
Thank you, Andreas. Then Saul.
Well, from our side is, I think it's a key point to define the scope and the skills. No, so additionally to the standard skills, the mechanics, avionics, structures, we have defined a specific task skill, like power run-up assurance test requires a special skill with a special training. Waiting an aircraft requires a special training with a special skill. This kind of tasks that we consider important and critical, then we have an additional training to have that, and we control our people that can perform those tasks. Additionally to that, especially in the base maintenance, in order to help the certifiers and to guarantee the complete process, what we have bring is the concept from heavy maintenance with this support staff certifying. We have bring as well in our task card. So even if the signature of the task card For sure, the step needs to be covered by the skill, but the signature of the task card will be covered by a certifying staff, even if they are not certifying there, but they are certifying in the work package. So this is like the concept of super certifying for every task, and then the final certifier of the work package will sign off on the final work package. I think this is key also to support and to ensure that the structure is the proper structure to deliver the aircraft.
Thank you, Saul. So I think the last question, and we are running a little bit late, but we have to go also to the Slido question. But the last question will be for Peter. 6 years ago, Brussels Airlines already implemented SMS in the Part 145. How has this helped your organization to prepare this summer campaign? I think it's an advantage to have you with us to explain a little bit about the SMS, because many Part 145 are already starting to do it, but you have already a good experience on that. Please, Peter.
Yes, Carmen. So I would say, first of all, what's the advantage of having an SMS system throughout the organization is that you all speak the same language. I think that's one of the main benefits I have seen to upper management, because often the upper management has lack of knowledge on what we are doing. But if you have an SMS system, they can basically compare throughout the organization because you talk the same language. You categorize in the same way, you deal with issues in the same way. And I have seen recently, even if you have key people who leave the company, it's very easy to include again somebody new who immediately understands where you are. So it immediately delays or shortens actually the amount of time that these people have to get into the company in order to understand the system. So they understand very fast the system. That is one thing. As I mentioned in my presentation, the logging of every single report, we classify every single report we have. It is also interlinked because some issues can rise in air safety reports, but they are related, or the originator is maintenance or vice versa. So what we have done is the categorization of all reports and the root cause analysis. And I think even the reports are 2 or 3 years ago, they give you very valuable info, and they also allow you to show if you do or take certain actions, do certain drivers reduce, for example. And we were able to identify some external maintenance organizations which were giving us a lot of risk. Since we have the dashboard, we are very quickly to identify those and to even have meetings with them to have corrective actions. So the speed of safety, I would say, by an SMS system has drastically increased. And I think that's one of the main advantages. And as well, like I said, we speak one language, even with accountable people who are not of the business, they understand what you're talking about. And it's objective data, so it's not personal. And that's something else that adds to that.
Thank you, Peter. That is a really very good summary of the benefits of the SMS. So now should we present a new poll, or is
Well, we can share the poll that we're currently running. It's we were looking in what does the participants see where the most time pressure will be for people working in these maintenance environment, whether it will be line maintenance certifying staff or maybe other staff in this organization. And it's interesting to see there's not. Well, it's obvious that line maintenance certifying staff is in the heat of the moment, but also that we see that maintenance and production planners and staff working in the MCC are those also involved in imposed on time pressure, and the management a bit less. But yeah, it's interesting to know. Do you maybe one of you want to react on that from the panelists on the particularly that also the time pressure is not on those only that we would expect most, like the certifying staff, but also in the supporting roles of logistics and planners, and maybe even in your own role as a manager.
Yes, especially on the planning side with short ground stops during the summer. Yeah, it's a challenge to get the plan to fit with the operation. Mm-hmm. So it's quite understandable that also a pressure on the maintenance control and production planners and to to set up a plan that are achievable. So it's good to see.
Well, I think it's in line maintenance, all the people, all the staff are under time pressure. Let's no doubt about it. I think I agree. So as Andrea says, the certifying staff has in the plan work, in the already the time constraint, and I think the most suffering part is the end production directly there at the aircraft. But it's true that also on the AOG side, there are a lot of pressure for the MCCs, the main roles, because the OCC always wants the aircraft, so they need to have the aircraft ready, and there's no plan slot, so here is nothing to save, no. So I think there are a lot of pressure there as well.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for that. Interesting to hear that. Should we have a look at
I ask you to go through the questions and to...
Yeah, John, can you help us with some questions?
Yeah, we can put them on the screen as well.
Yeah.
That's probably a good idea.
Yeah, I think it's...
So we're sharing the questions that came to us through the Slido.
I have to clarify, the question is for our panelists. I have seen some questions directly to EASA. I think there are other forums where we can answer those questions, but today, please post your question for our panelists. So I think the first question, you can...
I will take the first one. I think it's not easy, to be honest, and I tend to agree with the guy or the girl who is doing the question. It's not easy, to be honest, and I think now the lack of certifieds, the lack of prepared people in the market now to do maintenance is an evidence in Europe, and it's gonna get worse in my view. The only way that we could fight against, and I was explaining, Iberia is very traditional on that, is we need to create our own stuff, and we need to link them to our own brand. So they need to be proud of our brand. They need to be like a culture inside that, and you can only get that with a long time. So this is only forcing us to think on long-term plannings instead of short-term, and then we need to prepare people. For sure, you will lose people in the way, but if you have them since they were young, they have been formed and trained here, and we can still fight with some social benefits against. That's the only way to have the people really in our side and don't go outside for additional money. It's true that they will earn additional money outside, but they will prefer to stay home if they feel that this is a home. That's the key point.
Some other reaction?
Yeah, I think, Carmen, it's not that we want contracted staff. That's number one. We are also quite a unionized carrier, so we're actually against, or the unions are against contractors. The issues we see, and there I connect to Sol, is basically that, how to say, aviation is not sexy anymore. So we'll have to make it, especially for engineers. So we did quite some analysis in HR, and we see that, for example, all the engineers that left the company went to other domains. They did not stay in aviation. That is one thing. A second, what we are confronted with, we have quite some schools for engineers. To give you one example, last year 18 graduated in the school here out of Brussels, 0 choose aviation, which has been quite different in the years before. They used to almost want to go all in aviation. So I guess there's some promotion to do to make the profession attractive again. But that's the things we are facing, and the only way to solve it is temporary, to bridge the gap with contractors. But it's not a long-term solution.
John, I heard yesterday also during this cross-domain session someone saying to make aviation sexy again, just to get the people in and enthusiastic about and proud to.
Yeah, and actually it's something we've been talking about quite a bit in the context of our just the campaign in general, is this idea of when we had our Safe 360 conference last year. Yannick Melange, the head of product safety at Airbus, talked about aviation kind of losing its mojo, is the phrase we're using. And that's one of the challenges, really, is how do we find it and get that feeling ourselves, but then it's similarly, how do we project that to the next generation? So, as we were hearing there, aviation is a career. I mean, my background actually personally as a maintenance technician, and I remember at 17, 18, having done my first bit of training, I couldn't wait to get and do. I couldn't imagine doing anything other than aviation, but I can imagine now there are so many other choices, and what perhaps perceptions of the industry from outside. The challenge is how do we create that feeling that aviation's cool, particularly how do we create organizations that the next generation wants to work for? And I think that in itself is one of the challenges. I know beyond even just this discussion about maintenance, it's something that I think will challenge us as an industry for the next 10 years and beyond, I think.
And I think all of us in the industry, we have an important task to go to universities, schools, and meet students that are seeking looking for a career to promote this industry. And that we also use time on here in Norwegian to get in not only in the technical organization, but also on the flight side, and recruitment is important. So it's an area where we invest in promotion.
Okay, we can go to the next question.
Sorry.
So, whatever it is, we have to.
There we go. Sorry.
Technical.
Well, let's come back.
There we go. There we go.
So there is a question that I think is for the competent authorities. I think the EASA as competent authorities or national authorities will request risk register, safety performance indicator, alert triggers, etc. for new and existing CAW Part 145 organization. I think it's already happening, but you can, well, as soon as we have done standardization to some countries, I think it's the tendency to increase and more, particularly in the Part 145, where still is not mandatory to have the SMS.
Yeah, I hear more and more from friends of mine who, particularly in maintenance organisations, particularly, that this is becoming more of the conversation between them and an authority. What do you see as your top risks? How do you know that? What SPIs and data do you know that supports those being your top risks? And all these kinds of things. I'm hearing much more a part of that normal conversation between the authority and the organisation now.
I can imagine this subject will evolve in the coming time and years and months, more and more into it.
Okay, so we can go to the next question, because I think this will be more for our guests today. So I don't know who is volunteering to answer that. It's again about power and mitigation actions. And I think we have not talked about fatigue. So if someone can explain a little bit what is your organization doing regarding that? So talking about maintenance, certifying of maintenance, carrying out maintenance.
As I mentioned, the ground stops during the summer is shorter. Means that you have to have more staff available in a shorter period. The efficiency of the utilization of the staff goes down because the time you have the aircraft available is instead of 8 hours, it's 6 hours. So you have a reduction in efficiency, and so it's to be sure that we do not cheat on the planning side when we calculating the workload. So the fatigue is the same if you compare it, it's summer or winter. So the staff that performing the work, they have the same man-hours available.
I agree with Andreas. I think it's not the physical fatigue here, because as Andreas said, in the summer, normally you are working less because you are having less hours the aircraft available. What we need to be really care of is the time pressure constraint and the psychological pressure that the certifying staff will have to deliver the aircraft. And for that, we can only help him across the organization for him or her to feeling safe, having a support staff certifying together with him, or having the proper planning structure, having no additional workload over the capacity. That's the kind of things that we can do it, because the operation cannot change. Unfortunately, it is what it is. So.
Yeah.
So let's try to answer new one.
Yeah, it's a question maybe which Peter may can respond to us. It is a bit more about SMS. Some people are asking whether the measures that you've taken are also formalized in your organizational system. Peter, can you maybe respond to that?
Yeah, I'm just reading the question, Erik. Yeah, so indeed, all our data are based. We always have three perspectives. So it's the amount of time that something fails, it's the risk they provoke into the system, and we also have it per amount of flight hours flown. So these are three perspectives we look at in order to come where can we deal with, because it might be that something fails less but has a high risk connected to it. So, and on the basis of that, we'll give priority. So yes, we do look, but we take three perspectives into account.
Okay.
But they're basically all risk-based. So all decisions are risk-based taken.
Mm-hmm. And the measures that you take after this risk assessment, where you did define the measures that you want to take, are these also like formalized?
Yes. So in our whole system, all the measures we take, they come out of either the safety action group of maintenance, so or other organization or other meetings. It is as such that, for example, in the accountable meeting we have with the CEO, every single nominated person has to present his own dashboard. So I've trained these people, so they have to come and explain what their main risks are. And out of the SACs, they usually come up with what the mitigations is that they are proposing against the other nominated persons. So it's basically a dedicated meeting we have every week where every single person explains their risks of the week and actually the mitigations they are putting into place.
Okay. Oh, great, nice.
Okay, so maybe
one more
before we
do like a wrap up.
So, and I think that will be for Saul probably, but
You want to take that one?
Yeah. Well, just a clarification. When I mean MEL improvement, I mean to better control the defects, not to modify the MEL. Okay. Indeed, we are adding additional shortcuts to the MEL to have, let's say, shortcuts, no, additional barriers. Up to the MEL. So no, I'm not, let's say, doing the MEL more easy to fly, but the opposite. What we have done on the defect control is we have created 5 different steps on the defects. Every step has an owner and has a target time to be corrected. Okay, so we perform the initial troubleshooting, we perform the initial planning, then we do the full isolation, then we do the part sourcing and bringing the part here, and the final delivery. Every part of the process has its own owner and it has its own time. So the way that we control it with additional dashboard and data where everyone in the organization has his own overdues, is reducing the time to correct the defects. And that is allowing us to stretch not only the CAD-C, but also the CAD-Ds to reduce the time to be corrected. And that this is why important also to have a better fleet health completely for all the fleets. Okay.
Okay. So
maybe can I just quickly mention the survey before we forget, and then we
yes, please.
just before we get to the final sum up bit. So just to say, just to say that we have one of the safety issue assessments that we have ongoing at the moment is on repetitive defects. Some of you who were at Safe 360 will remember the panel on that. So we have a survey, there's a QR code in the bottom right there that you can scan, but Cengiz Torkoglu, who's helping lead that work, did also put the link in the chat. And when we send a follow-up email with the links to all the material afterwards, we'll add that in, so the link to that survey is there as well. We really appreciate your input and involvement in that as well. So yeah, thanks very much on that one.
Okay, so now just to summarize, what are the key messages that we have heard from all three guests? We have all of them doing a lot of data analysis to be prepared for the summer campaign. Training is also a key point, and effectiveness, not only that you have training, but you have effective and proper training. You have to deal not only with normal business things like parts, availability of parts and components, and availability of the staff, but also to deal with cultural issues, to deal with things like strikes. So at the end of the day, the time pressure for the maintenance is a common factor, and we have seen that in terms of mitigating factors and preparation of the staff, each of the guests today have presented a slightly different approach. So I think, well, at the end, you have to analyze your own operations, your own environment, and find the best solution for you. And again, and because SMS has been also mentioned several times, we still trust that the SMS is the way to put all together and to get the best outcome of the process. So I don't know, Eric, whether you want to add something else regarding the summary.
No, I think just the majority of the subjects were discussed. I also noted that the availability of spare parts is a challenge that is affecting many of us and you as well. Yeah, something that is not only affecting you from your direct suppliers, but even the larger airframe manufacturers are having that. So yeah, something that we cannot make a solution of, but it's just the fact that it's there. But other than that, okay. Yeah.
So let me finish to thank you all our guests today, Andreas, Peter, Saul. It was really a pleasure to have you. I think we have learned a lot about your experiences. I hope our audience can benefit also from the explanation you have provided about how you prepare for this summer. We will have a busy summer. I think that will be a good indicator. Crossing fingers not to have the worst scenario. We have to be prepared for the worst scenario, but hope for the best. And I think at least the data up to today is saying that traffic in the summer will be again to the values pre-COVID or even above of it. So I wish you and your companies all the best for this summer, and let's hope for a safe summer. So
yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much. It has been a pleasure.
Fantastic. And
Thank you.
have
Thank
lots
you.
of lots of material that we'll be sharing. There'll be the SIB coming in either later this week or early next week, and all the different promotion material to follow. So keep an eye on our Together for Safety YouTube, and also on the AirOps community site and our LinkedIn as well. Thanks very much. Have a great day. Stay safe. Bye.
Bye.